welcome to the Webelos Castaway Adventure Box. Today we'll be covering Requirement 1B and portions of Requirement 2. We'll be starting with Requirement 1B. Requirement 1B utilizes the fire starter kit that you'll find in your Webelos Adventure Box. The fire starter is a flint bar and a steel scraper. By scraping the steel across the flint, tiny particles of iron are removed from the steel and spontaneously combust, causing sparks to form. You'll want to demonstrate to your scout how to use the flint and steel bars. You'll want to use a pie tin to contain the sparks and do this outside or in a safe environment. To complete this adventure, we'll be moving on to portions of Requirement 2, starting with Requirement 2B. Requirement 2B has your scout using two methods of purifying water. The first method is rather self-explanatory and is boiling water. What you'll need for this is a pot, water, and a stove. Just fill the pot with water, place that on your stove, and bring it to a boiling point. Unfortunately, you're not always going to be in a situation where the water is clean of debris. When that's the case, you'll want to distill water, which is the second method of purifying water. To distill water, you'll want to have a pot, fill that with water, and place it on your stove. Then you'll want to place a bowl that can float in the water inside the pot. Next, you'll take a lid upside down and place it covering your pot. You'll put some ice on that lid and then turn your stove on to allow that water to boil. Once you feel you've boiled your water for a suitable amount of time, turn off the stove and give it some time to cool off. You don't want to touch anything until it's room temperature. After you've removed the bowl from your pot, allow your scout to try both the boiled water from your first attempt to purify and to try the distilled water from your second attempt of purifying water, and compare the two. The distilled water from your second attempt of purifying water is the water that's in the bowl. And this concludes Requirement 2B. Next is Requirement 2A. For Requirement 2A, your scout is going to be creating your survival kit. We have resources linked in the written instructions. As your scout is making their survival kit, be sure to go over why each item is important. And that concludes Requirement 2A. Next, we'll be moving on to Requirement 2C. For Requirement 2C, you'll want to discuss with your scout and brainstorm a couple scenarios in which they might find themselves lost in the woods. While discussing these scenarios, be sure to keep the STOP method in mind. STOP stands for Stop, Think, Observe, Plan. Once you've identified a couple scenarios in which your scout might be lost alone in the woods, come up with some ways for how your scout might signal rescuers. As you're discussing the methods in which your scout might find somebody to rescue them, also discuss with them how to keep themselves safe during that waiting period. And this concludes the Requirement 2C. Next, we'll be going over Requirement 2D. Requirement 2D is all about leadership and what kind of leadership qualities your scout will need if they're ever put in one of these survival situations. We would recommend using the Scout Law and the 12 points listed there as a kind of guideline for when you're coming up with these leadership qualities. After you've identified 4 leadership qualities, have your scout write those down. Have them act out 1 or 2 of those leadership qualities and then describe how they relate to the points of the Scout Law and how they help them better understand the Scout motto, which is be prepared. And that concludes the requirements that we'll be going over with you today. I hope you enjoyed this adventure. Be sure to share your experience with us on social media using the hashtag #CACImpact. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.